The Key to the Indian by Lynne Reid Banks. Chapter 13, The Key Turner. Omri was surprised his mother didn't notice in the days that followed that he and his father spent so much private time together, but she was completely fixated on Guion. After his two recent mishaps, she decided he had become accident-prone, and she was afraid to let him out of her sight, so that although, in Omri's opinion, Guion had now completely recovered, he was still home from school, being spoilt absolutely rotten and loving it. However, as he kept boring his mother and everyone else who would listen by recounting his dream over and over again, with embellishments, it seemed probable that her indulgence would soon come to an end. Meanwhile, it was quite useful to have her mind on other things. It left Omri and his dad with time and privacy to plan. They'd already decided when they would make the trip. There was some kind of teachers in training day coming up at the end of October, which would close schools on the Monday. So Omri and his dad talked openly at meals about a short camping trip together. There was no question of Guion going. He didn't even want to. He couldn't explain this, but Omri understood. Even though Guion thought the India trip had been a dream, nevertheless he'd had his fill of adventure for the moment. Early on, the idea of Dartmoor was privately abandoned. They decided to go instead to a place nearer home. Omri's dad took to going for long exploratory walks and drives. At the end of one of them, he was so excited he came to meet Omri on his way home from school. "Peacock Hill!" Omri's dad said breathlessly. Omri had told him his private name for the hill he could see from his bedroom. "It's perfect. It's only 2 miles away, and once you're up on top, in that little circle of trees, you can't be seen." "Can you drive up there?" "Yes, on a cart track. I'd have to back down again, which wouldn't be funny, but it can be done." "If there's a track, other people must go there." "Maybe they did once. It's pretty overgrown. I think it's just the occasional walker goes there now." But that still left the main problem unsolved. They discussed it endlessly. Who would send them to Little Bear's time? Who would be around to turn the key in the ignition and bring them safely back? "It must be someone we can trust, someone who won't ask questions, who will just walk up there and do it at the time we arrange." "But there's no one like that. You need a robot. Imagine finding 2 people unconscious in the car who wouldn't ask questions." "What we really need is someone who already knows." And then, of course, the solution, blindingly obvious, why hadn't he thought of it sooner, flashed upon Omri. "Patrick!" "Omri," says Dad after a moment, "you're a genius. Write him immediately, and I'll write his mother." Omri didn't stop to think it out. He just rushed upstairs and dashed off a letter to Patrick, who maddeningly was not on the phone, at his home in Kent. He wrote "Private and Confidential" on the envelope, and at the start of the letter he wrote, "Burn this when read. Dear Patrick, my dad has found out. I didn't tell him, of course. He found out by accident. Don't worry, he won't tell. This is to ask you to stay with us like you did before, on the long weekend. You must talk your mum into it. Then we're going to a place my dad's found. We'll pretend we're going camping, the 3 of us. Only we're not really. We're going back to help Little Bear. He's in trouble. We've found a way. It does work. We've proved it. I'll tell you everything when I see you. Say you'll come. Omri." Reading this, Omri's dad frowned. "You don't think you ought to tell him a few more details, such as that he won't be coming with us?" "Couldn't him and me go first? Do part of it together?" "He and I," grated his dad as usual. He was a pronoun freak. "I don't know about that. All I know is that he can't do the main part with us. So basically we're inviting him as a sort of to be a sort of gopher." "No, a key turner." "What's the difference, Dad?" "Not much," his dad admitted. "From what I know of Patrick, we're going to have to handle this rather tactfully." "You mean I am," said Omri glumly. He lost every bit of good feeling he'd had about the coming adventure, in bad feeling about exploiting Patrick. Patrick was on the phone 24 hours later to say he wouldn't miss it for anything on earth. He arrived by train, unaccompanied as he had before. This time, as a seasoned traveler, he was rather blasé about the trip. "Mum told the conductor to look after me," he said. "Could you believe she'd do it? Humiliation time. He kept coming around asking if I was all right. I mean, grotesque or what?" After that, he talked about nothing but the coming adventure. He thought it was terrific that Omri's dad knew all about it. "It's really scary on your own," he said. "I can't wait. I haven't slept since I got your letter." Omri's dad said very little, but Patrick was too excited to notice. When they got to the cottage and hellos had been said, Patrick dragged Omri to the wild end of the garden for a private conference. "Look what I brought!" he exclaimed, bringing his closed hand out of his pocket. Omri guessed what he would see before Patrick's opening fingers revealed the figures of Boone the cowboy and his wife, Ruby Lou. They were sitting on Boone's black horse, Boone in front, Ruby sitting sideways behind him, still in her wedding dress, which, when real, was of silk and lace ruffles. Her veil thrown back, her red leather boots sticking out incongruously under the white frill. Boone was bareheaded. They were both smiling their post-wedding smiles of happiness. Boone held the reins in one hand and something white in the other, a chunk of wedding cake, halfway to his grinning mouth. "You're not planning to take Boone and Ruby Lou back," said Omri. "Why not? They belong in the Wild West. They could help. And they'd go back like Boone did before. I mean, he'd be full-sized. He could help us." "No, it wouldn't work. He was full-sized before because he went back with Bright Stars in the teepee. If he came back with us, he wouldn't be full-sized any more than we would. Maybe he'd be even smaller, like he is compared to us now. Microscopic!" "We could send him back first with one of the others in the plastic teepee, like before. He could be waiting for us." "He'd probably be killed by the Indians before we got there. Imagine it, a white guy not even from their time suddenly appearing on a horse which they'd want, with a woman all got up in a wedding dress." "They might think she was a goddess." "Goddess? Don't be daft! They'd kill Boone and carry her off. That's what they did with white women in those days. They carried them off and made them part of the tribe." Patrick snorted. "I wouldn't like to be the Indian who tried to carry Ruby off." "We can't take risks like that." "Well, I'll tell you one thing," said Patrick. "I'm definitely going to bring them through the cupboard. I have to know how they are, just for a visit. Omri, come on, you brought yours." "My dad brought them." "Yeah, wow, I have to hear all about that." So they sat under a tree, and Omri began to tell him. Oddly enough, it was the stuff about Jessica Charlotte that Patrick was most excited about. "The magic pulled her out of the river. But that's weird. How come it happened at just the right moment?" "I know what my dad thinks," said Omri soberly. "He thinks I've got a bit of magic in me from Jessica Charlotte because I'm her posterity." "Post what?" "Descendant, then. Her relative. Dad thinks it can be passed on, like her gift is in her genes." "She didn't wear jeans!" And Patrick collapsed with laughter and rolled on his back. Omri, feeling the old irritation with Patrick, sat still, frowning. There had always been this side of him. He was a good mate and often had brilliant insights into the magic, but he could be a complete idiot sometimes. Vaguely rude jokes about Jessica Charlotte struck Omri as being completely out of order, especially when he remembered the terrible ordeal she was going through back in her time, which he couldn't even help with. "If it hadn't been for her, we wouldn't be able to go back at all," he said stiffly. Patrick glanced at him, saw at once he'd gone too far, and sat up again. "Sorry," he said. "I was really laughing at the idea of you having magic powers. I wouldn't laugh at her." After a moment's thought, he said, "But if you did have some of Jessica Charlotte's gift, wouldn't your mum have it too?" Omri grunted. He didn't want to tell Patrick about his mother seeing Jessica Charlotte's ghost when she was young. He thought Patrick just might laugh again. He told about the key in the car. Patrick was absolutely riveted. "Have you tried it?" "Yes, we've all been back. Guion and I went to India about 80 years ago, I think." Patrick's jaw dropped. "Guion knows!" Omri shook his head and told Patrick about his being dropped on his head and thinking he dreamt the whole thing. "I'm a bit worried that when he really gets his head back together, he'll realize that dreams just aren't like that," he said. "For the moment, he hasn't even thought it might have been real. Well, you wouldn't, would you?" "I would," said Patrick. "I'd know it wasn't a dream. Well, go on. Tell me what happened. India, blimey. Did you meet a snake charmer?" Patrick did a shimmy with his head and arms. "As a matter of fact," began Omri, but just then his mother called them for tea, and they had to go back into the house. They didn't get a chance to talk again until they were in bed in Omri's room that night, and that didn't happen until late because they'd had to pack the gear to give the trip the appearance of a genuine camping trip. Omri tried to tell Patrick about India, but they were both too tired. Besides,